Hey, it's Brady with BH Tech Connection, and welcome to our latest Tech Tip Thursday video. Today, I want to talk about computers, particularly getting new computers, because I often get asked what type of computer specs are important when deciding what computers to purchase. So I decided to create this video to go over 4 key requirements that I go through with every person that asks me this kind of question to look for certain things when you're purchasing a new computer so that you're armed with the knowledge you need in order to make your own educated decision on any particular computer you might be looking at, whether it's at Costco or on Amazon, Dell, Lenovo, Apple, etc. And those 4 things are the type of processor, the size of the RAM, the size of the hard drive, and then the type of hard drive. So I'll go into each one of those. First off, the processor. Now, most days now, your average computer is coming with an Intel processor. Apple goes with Intel. Most major computer brands on the Windows side also comes with Intel. You can get AMD, but I don't really focus on that very much. And at any rate, the Intel processors are set up with the following sequence usually: Core i3, i5, i7, i9. They have a couple other kind of fringe ones where they talk about Xeon, but you can usually tell that that's going overkill anyway, and you tend to focus a little bit more on computers that, at least given their price, falls into one of those 4 kinds of Core i and a number kind of thing. Now, i3 is kind of bottom of the barrel. You don't want to really go for that. You're going to have a lot of processing limitation there. i9, by contrast, is extreme overkill for almost anybody unless you happen to be a programmer and you really need to do a lot of heavy processing. Video editors to a certain extent as well, but that tends to hit a little bit more on graphics, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the Goldilocks zone, i5 or i7. I usually say i5, but if you get an i7 quite by accident as part of a pre-built computer, it's certainly not the end of the world. Take the little bit extra that comes with that. It's kind of that Goldilocks zone. The RAM depends a little bit on whether you're on Windows or on Mac. If you're going to be getting a Windows machine, then 8 gigabytes or more is kind of where I would recommend that you start from. Anything below 8 gigabytes of RAM, first off, is somewhat rare to find nowadays with new computers, but if you're looking into refurbished, you might see things like 4 or 6, and that's certainly stay away from those. But 8 or better is where you want to stick with Windows. Now, if you're either a power user or you are on Mac, then the more the merrier. And I usually say 16 or better for Mac and for power users. And the other thing that I want to comment on here is that RAM's the cheapest and easiest part to upgrade. So feel free to go big here. You know, if you're debating between 16 and 32 gigs of RAM, you're going to already notice that it's a relatively small difference in total price for the computer. So if you've got the extra budget for it, that's an easy place to put the money. Size of the hard drive, and I'll talk about the importance of the size in conjunction with the type, right? So I mentioned that there's the size of the hard drive and the type of hard drive. So I'm actually going to talk first about the type of hard drive, because that is the one thing that if you get that wrong, that's the hardest thing to come back from, because that's what you actually load either Mac OS or Windows 10 on. And if you're going to replace the hard drive, you now have to worry about recovering all your files, getting your programs reinstalled. It's not just the hardware component getting swapped out, it's all of the software ramifications that come with it. So if you get this part wrong, this is the part where it's really going to hurt. So the type of hard drive, there's 3 different kinds usually. There's a standard kind of hard drive, which usually has an RPM indicator on it. It'll say something like 5400 or 7200 RPM. That's the one you want to stay away from at all costs. SSD, or solid state drive, or I think maybe solid state disk, is the ideal that you want to go for, right? And that is a hard drive that functions at the same speed that your RAM will. I don't want to go into the weeds there, but this is the bottleneck, right? If you don't get a solid state hard drive, if you go with an RPM, you're limited to the speed of those RPMs, right? And then a fusion/hybrid, depending on the architecture, sometimes Mac OS likes to talk about fusion drives. Some Windows computers Windows-based computers might talk about having a hybrid drive. Those are acceptable because you're running critical applications on essentially solid-state technology, and then using the RPMs for less time-crucial things like saving a file or moving a file kind of thing. So Fusion and hybrid is an acceptable kind of hard drive, but most often when you're getting a new computer, you're actually only going to see differences between RPM style hard drives or solid state drives, SSDs. So this is definitely crucial. Now the size of the hard drive, the reason why I bring this up is because you'll notice a distinct difference in the cost and the size capacity of the hard drives when you go with solid state. The solid state drive is more expensive, but again, you need to invest here, otherwise you're going to be in a world of pain. But the other thing that is noteworthy here is that it's not just that it's more expensive, it's also that you have less space to work with. So I usually specify exact amounts so that you're not worried too much about the diminishing returns involved. So if you're just an average user, you don't have a lot of data, 256 gigabytes will work for pretty much anybody in that category. Now, if you have a lot of data, if you do a lot of cloud sync storage, or you have a lot of pictures or whatever, and you believe that 512 gigabytes could potentially work, you're going to have to figure that part out somewhat on your own. We can help, obviously. But 512 will be acceptable for that. Now, if you got really deep pockets, just go for a full terabyte if you're at all worried about it. But a lot of people don't necessarily have the extra $300, $400, $500 it would cost to move from a 256 gig to a 1 terabyte solid state drive kind of thing. It's quite an expensive upgrade. Now, if you feel like you need that level of capacity, talk to me first before you even get this new computer, because there could be ways that we can look at your data in a way that it doesn't have to take up space on your hard drive. And you might actually, with the right projects done in the right order, save yourself quite a lot of money on getting a larger hard drive than you really technically need if we can do the right things with that data. So if you feel like you're really heavy on storage, talk to me first before even getting a computer, because we should be able to talk about that first. But those are the main elements, right? The type of the processor where you want to be in the Goldilocks zone, RAM where the more the merrier, but there's minimums that you should at least focus on. And then there's that type and size of the hard drive that you should keep in mind. All other things are usually considered nice to have, relatively easy to upgrade, and usually not terribly crucial. Now, I mentioned briefly something about graphics. That really only comes into play if you are graphics intensive, if you're a videographer, or you are a CAD designer, or use specialized programs like Revit or other kind of engineering software that requires a lot of graphics capabilities. That's when you might need to get a dedicated graphics card. And if you have that kind of fringe case and you're not sure what kind of graphics card to get, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to find out your specific situation and help you through it. Now, on that note, I do have a web page that contains a lot of suggestions for best-in-class equipment for, bang for your buck kind of thing. So I have a Dell desktop that you can look at purchasing off of Amazon, as well as Lenovo Yoga laptops and network equipment, USB drives, right? It's a top tech picks, basically. And if you go to my website, bhtechconnection.com, you'll actually see in the menu, top tech picks. You go there, and then there's just tiles. And the first one is actually going to be the desktop, then there's going to be a monitor choice, there's going to be a laptop, and so on. So you can go and check that out if you don't want to go through all of the process of assessing deals and figuring out a custom computer. But at any rate, that's it for today's video. Let me know what you thought. Don't forget to like and share this video with others who are probably considering getting a new computer soon. And thanks for watching. Again, I'm Brady Helkin with BH Tech Connection, and I'll see you again next week.